When Hubrecht is away, Jarvis can play. Hello, everyone. I'm Jarvis, and welcome back to Pint Cellar. You know what? You hear me and Hubrecht ranting about, our frustrations with 40K at the moment, how everything's too expensive, and Games Workshop themselves just making dumb decisions with their lore and game and how they play and how they run the game tabletop wise. And you know what? Yes, I will admit that gets views and that's what gets engagement within the YouTube algorithm. But I just think, you know what? Let's just put all that aside. Let's remember why we like 40K. And I figured today, why don't I share you one of my favorite factions about Warhammer, or at least in the 40K side of things. And that is the Tau Empire. Because you know what? I'll admit, I like the Tau. And I'm tired of pretending that I don't or never did. And this is coming from someone who's been in the hobby for I'll say quite a while now. Maybe shy of 10 years or maybe even more. I will say it's been a while. And you know what? I've been collecting a bunch of armies, right? I collect Imperial Guard, I collect Space Marines, painting different Space Marine chapters for my own little strike units just for the sake of diversity and doing something different. Tyranids, including AOS factions like Stormcast Eternal, Skaven, and even Warhammer Fantasy like Bretonia. But, I like the Tau. If I were to pick my number one favorite faction within all of Warhammer from 40K, AOS Fantasy, if I were to pick just one faction out of all the three settings, it would be the Tau. And I am, like I said, tired pretending that I don't. And you know what? Maybe it'll be a fun story to share, why I like the Tau. So, you know what? Let's rewind a bit. When I was in high school and when I went to my local hobby store, they were selling used Warhammer codices because I believe this is when 7th edition was around. And that's when I was, gain more exposure to Warhammer and decide that I want to collect a codex to read because this seems interesting. And one of the first few codices I bought from that store, they were selling 4th edition codices for dirt cheap. And I was like, why don't I get 4 of them and see how I find them? And of course, it would be Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, Oryx, and of course, Tau. And when I saw the Tau on the cover, and this is before I even knew who Tau were, I didn't get any exposure or experience about who are the Tau. So seeing the 4th edition cover, I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. I like these sort of war suits and the fact that this is an alien faction that's an actual empire on its own within the setting of 40K. It's like, okay, this seems interesting. Who are these guys? And, I'll read about who the Tau were, and I would then read about what their empire's goal is. And especially how learning that there are other alien species that are part of the said empire, like the Kroots and Vespids, and the fact that they had models that you could field within the game too to fight alongside with the Tau. I was like, okay, this is actually pretty cool. I like this. And then I would learn about characters like Farsight, and I was like, okay, this guy sounds really cool. A rogue commander who separated off from the Empire to run his own enclave. And the fact that he has this it's not exactly confirmed yet, but it is he wields a warped power sword, or I'm going to call it a semi-magic sword. I'm going to call it that just for the sake of it. I don't think we're really going to get confirmation about what the origins of his sword is, but that's a take for a different time. But hearing that he does wield this ancient sword, and he's known for being a dread figure amongst the orcs, it's like, okay, I really like this. I really like this guy, especially how his faction specifically, or his enclave, is all in for the crimson color look. I'm like, I like this. I think if I were to collect Tau, I would paint them as the farsight enclaves because this is neat. I like this. So I think this is why this is my more positive takes about Warhammer, is that when you find a faction that you really enjoy, it opens things for you. You know, it's something that keeps you coming back into the thing you like, because having that click with a faction having that click with a faction really is like the wow factor of said thing. You know, there are people who, you know, they discover the Black Templars and something clicks with them where it's like, this to me is the perfect army for me to run, or something that I can follow. And that goes for all factions across, you know, all of Warhammer and the settings, from AOS to fantasy, Horus Heresy, Necromunda onwards. Like I say, something they can really click with. It's like, okay, this is something really special. And I think that's one of the biggest charms within the Warhammer hobby, yeah? We all have that faction or have that unit that we really resonate with, or something that we really like want to follow within this enormous universe, yeah? But yeah, like I said, model wise, I really like the mech suit look they have going on. And especially when they introduce more Kroot units and introduce the Vespid within the kill teams. To me, I think they do have best kill team units, because we were shown different Pathfinders. We were given new Kroots, and from that we were given like a semi-army of a whole new Kroot range. Then we got Vespids. Then we got special stealth suits within the Tau Empire, which almost to me look like miniature ghost kills, and that's something I really enjoy. And yeah, you know, I'm going to paint them as the Farsight enclaves, because you know I will. And like I said, I'm tired of always pretending that I don't enjoy Tau, and it actually is kind of funny when in my young adults church group, me and some of the guys who are into Warhammer, when we're talking about one of our favorite factions, of course, a lot of them are like, you know, Space Marines and stuff, but it is kind of funny to see their surprise where it's like, yeah, I enjoy Tau. Yeah, it's like, yeah, the Catholic guy in a church group is like, yeah, I don't like the Black Templars. I like the Tau. And I'm tired of pretending I don't. But yeah, years later, I would like read novels from Phil Kelly, and I really enjoyed Blade of Damocles. I really enjoyed War of Secrets. Like especially like how we got new lore about the, you know, Tau chaos god that's being conceived within the warp, named Tauva or Tauva, depending on how you pronounce it. And yeah, the Farsight trilogy, which I'm really enjoying. I hope to get to the third book soon when I have more time. I hear so many comments about Phil Kelly, and it's like, you know what, guys, he's fine writing his novels. I'm not going to really dive into complaints people have with his novels, because like, well, if I enjoy them, then what's the issue? Then it's like, well, tough. It's like, yeah, I enjoy them, so it's like, why should I care what you have to say? And that's just how I feel. And you know what? I am going to give this low comment, because there seems to be this, I'm going to call it a pathological hatred towards Tau within some members within 40K, because there'll be comments like, oh, the Tau just don't fit in. They were only introduced from Games Workshop to make money, as if anything Games Workshop does is not for the pursuit of money. So tough, I guess. But one of the comments, which I kind of find funny, where it's about the Tau, where it's like, oh, well, they don't fit in 40K. They're only introduced to attract the weebs. And it's like, okay, well, when were the Tau made? Like, was this recently? Was this like 2010? When were they introduced? And it's like, they were introduced in 2001. And I'm like, 2001, I was 3 years old. I'm 28 right now, guys. So it's like, they were introduced when I was 3. And it's like, I got into them when I was in high school. And so when hearing people say, oh, they just don't fit in because they were only introduced to attract the weebs, and it's like, I can get that sort of comment if it was like recently or semi-recently, but it's like 2001. I don't think I had like brain cells or developed brain cells at that time, guys. So it's like, imagine me trying to say the Tau don't fit in, and it's like, well, I got introduced to 40K much later, and they came out when I didn't have any understanding what was going on in the world. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's like, it is kind of weird to hear someone who's like in his 20s saying the same kind, repeating the same kind of arguments about the Tau, and it's like, oh, that's a cute comment. Did a YouTuber give it to you? So it's like, have your own thoughts, bud. Or is your perception of what happens in 40K only made because of what a YouTuber tells you? And yeah, that is kind of funny coming from me, you know? But it's like life. That's just how it is, I guess. So it's like, you know what? I'm not trying to say just let people enjoy things, but it's like at a certain point, when it comes to like, say, what people like, I have something to say about faction you enjoy that I just don't like. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure they get deleted somehow, even though I have like no leverage within Games Workshop. And it's like, I really don't care, bud. Go away. It's like, oh, you're just telling me to go away? And it's like, yep. I'm not going to waste my breath, because it's like, I see fans within AOS or fans of the Tau, they'll give their arguments for why they like the stuff they do, and then there'll be comments like, not an argument. And it's like, well, that's absolutely an argument. I gave you my reasoning. And it's like, not an argument. So it's like, no point, I guess. So I'm just going to go my separate ways. Not that I'm not saying like they're just leaving the hobby, but it's like, I'm not going to waste my breath with you. I'm going to just enjoy the things I do. So really, like with most videos where it's just me recording episodes like this, I just want to share my thoughts on stuff where I don't think it really needs like a 40-minute podcast episode to do with, you know, Hubrecht and I. I just want to give a moment to say that yes, even though 40K can be frustrating at the moment, even if Games Workshop is making dumb things, just remember, like, why do you enjoy Warhammer at the end of the day? I think just taking time to enjoy the hobby is healthy, and it's okay to enjoy things when the world's on fire. I'm just saying. If there's a faction that you enjoy about 40K or within AOS or within Fantasy Battle, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts about what is something that you enjoy about Warhammer. Because this is my take, this is my story, and I want to hear yours. So share your thoughts in the comments down below. I would love to hear about them, especially your thoughts on faction like the Tau. But with that, thank you all for listening to my ramble once again, guys. And I'll see you guys soon with another video. Take care.